Dynamite Download.
Dynamite Download, your home for all positive coverage on All Elite Wrestling. Special event, as you can see, SPD about Fleetwood badass.
To see the height and to see the commitment and to see the drive. We'll see yours truly without a signature shade. SPD once again. January recruitment work for them.
I come along in the
Actually, I didn't do that. I was thinking
Dynamite, all in the flesh.
Have to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome everybody to AEW Dynamite Download, and baby, is it going to be easy to be the home of all positive coverage of All Elite Wrestling. Your boy Crayfish here is representing his FTR. I'm a diehard fan of FTR, and man, SPD, it was an easy week to be an FTR fan, dude.
I wish I had an FTR shirt to rock. I will soon because I'm one. Not that I wasn't convinced before, thanks to you, the best salesman on the planet. But now, even more, this 6-star match, these 6-star guys are just
6-star FTR, baby. I love it.
The first time you gotta be babyface.
You're right, and dude. And the crowd was eating up FTR, man. Unbelievable matches this week for FTR. And you're right. Squarely on team babyface. Wild for me to see as a guy who's always kind of fallen in love with FTR's dastardly tactics, always getting away to get a leg up behind the ref's back. You know, they really flipped the script on us, man, and they are as over
Flip the pancake.
Flip it. They are as over of baby faces in pro wrestling right now. Their story to the top has been absolutely inspiring. We're going to definitely dive into that matchup. But this is a really great episode to have with you, man, because
I know
not only was Dynamite action-packed, but we kind of wanted to wait until post-Rampage because even fresh off the heels of Dynamite, everyone was buzzing about Rampage and what we were going to see with Wheeler Yuta against Jon Moxley, and that one did not disappoint. We're going to touch on that tonight. Can't wait to talk to you about that one because, I've been really digging the Jon Moxley work that he's been doing of late.
Heck yeah.
And Wheeler Yuta, Wheeler Yuta is definitely, coming onto the scene as a breakout star in AEW on a loaded roster. This guy is turning a lot of heads. And I mean, Tony Khan himself said Rampage was a star-making night for Wheeler Yuta. So going to be an interesting,
bold statement right there. About.
Absolutely, man. So let's dive right in, man. Let's get into Dynamite. Because that
I wore my AEW shirt just because, like you said, man, a great time to be part of AEW, some awesome week of television and, a lot to cover, but we're going to cover some of our, everything was a good spot, but we're going to cover some of our highlights and some of our, really character turning moments on it stuff. And we got to start with a boom, baby, because
your guy.
First time we've seen Christian Cage in a singles match in quite a bit. He's been hanging around with Jurassic Express. And I think this one was a great way to start the show. The crowd was absolutely hot in Boston. They were just like nonstop chants. The chants were split. Let's go Christian, Adam Cole. Yeah, let's go Christian, Adam Cole. This was nonstop back and forth like with that, man. And I know you're on the fence with Adam Cole right now,
right.
But you know that he is such a likable person, a likable character. When the heel that starts the show gets more pops than the baby face.
It's wild.
Right. That's wild, baby.
You are right, man. I mean, I've struggled with seeing him as a believable world champion in AEW. And I know that
that's okay.
I'm in the minority on that. So I try really hard to stay on the bright side, and I'll say this: Adam Cole, every single time he comes out, my argument against him gets continued to get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down because, dude, you're right. The crowd eats it up. His entrance alone is one of those that gets everybody out of their seats, get everybody pumped. And I thought this was a good match for him because, again, you're going against a guy like Christian, who you know is an absolute workhorse.
Outwork everyone, baby.
They started off the Boston crowd. We're hearing it in the chat. Absolutely, the Boston crowd was hot for Dynamite, and
one of the loudest crowds I've heard on TV in a while.
Agreed.
Honestly,
and Adam Cole's entrance, no matter if it's in Boston or if it's in like the BFE, people are going to come out and they're going to go crazy for that entrance. I know you always love it. The boom. He brings the boom, and dude, he brought it in this match against Christian, a guy who is an absolute vet in this industry. He and Christian had another. I mean, for two guys that have been around as long as they have been, and this was an Adam Cole, a big anniversary for him. He was feeling a little sentimental with how long his journey in pro wrestling has been. But for both these guys being pros like they have, to never cross paths before, you would have never guessed, because their chemistry in this match was off the charts. These two guys absolutely worked really well together. And it's a continuation of a story of, if you think about this, Adam Cole, when he entered AEW, his first feud was really with Jungle Boy.
True.
Right away. And I think that, you're continuing to see AEW do things like this where, although stories may ebb and flow, they always find a way to touch on the beginning, like the past, and they don't forget those things.
You're right.
And I think that, again, they're building this story really well. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus called out Red Dragon.
Yeah.
So
they had enough.
These two crews, although Adam Cole is definitely focused on the world title, this feud with Jurassic Express and Christian is not going away. Just because Adam Cole has his eyes set on being the world champion in AEW, and again, AEW buying Ring of Honor recently, acquiring them, anybody who knows Adam Cole's work in Ring of Honor knows this guy has won every single place he's gone, he's become a world champion. So he obviously expects the same in AEW.
You're right.
But although his sights are set on that world title, I think this really, I love the depth and the layers of storytelling that AEW has here, because just because he's focused on Hangman Adam Page does not mean that Christian and Jurassic Express has forgotten all the crap that he's put them through, right?
Right.
And this match, they fought this match like guys who just didn't like each other. And I like that. I thought that added a little edge to Adam Cole. I think that Adam Cole, especially because he fights so many, and I'll be honest, again, as a guy who struggles with seeing Adam Cole as a top level guy because of his size, only because of his size, right? Because in an industry where we're used to seeing guys like Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs and some of these big fellas, I will be honest with you, that's the only criticism you can have with Adam Cole. When he does things like he did in this match with Christian, when he's going all out and leaning into those dastardly moves that he does, being willing to kind of bend the rules, I think that Adam Cole adds that extra level of believability, a guy who's willing to cut corners, to do whatever it takes to win, and again, uses people for his benefit to get to the top. Yeah. And post-match, I wonder if it's going to take an army for him to get to the top on this one, because he gets the one-on-one with Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match, dude. We've seen these before. It's going to be a big challenge for Adam Cole. I mean, Hangman Adam Page and Adam Cole in a Texas death match, dude. As a guy who always gets squeamish with blood, what are you thinking about this one?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about that totally with the Wheeler Yuta match. But
yeah, a lot of blood in that one.
Every one of Hangman Adam Page's match be absolute bangers, different stipulations, marathon matches, and ones that are almost all pay-per-view worthy. And so I think this is going to be nothing short of that. He took down the Lance Archer, king of the Texas Death Match, essentially. So if he loses to Adam Cole, that would be quite the surprise. Right. But it is a different element. I mean, you have the heel one-on-one work by Adam Cole nonstop, the kicking in the nuts, the low blows, the cheating with the ref, and all that. So I hope we don't see that typical WWE DQ kind of booking, but this is just finally, well, I think our champ, Hangman Adam Page, Team Babyface champ, is going to prevail and kind of silence Adam Cole finally
Yeah.
and move on.
You think so?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
think so. I think
Yeah.
so as well. I think, as we've discussed this before, it's interesting how with such a deep roster, how they book their champions at times. Look at the champions right now. Scorpio Sky still hasn't been in the ring. Thunder Rosa, we haven't seen much of her in an
Good
epic
point.
roller coaster of emotional journey, well-deserved journey, and she's our champ. But we haven't seen her in the ring or
point by
much
you.
on TV, period, when she deserves. Hangman Adam Page has been here and there, but he hasn't fought. Not fighting as frequent.
Even Jurassic Express
is the
even
same
Jurassic
way. They have
Express,
very
you're
few
right.
defenses.
You're right.
Jade, I think, is probably, I know you went on a nice, good run about proving, Jade's title run and her title importance. I think she's been the one that's been defending the most, but, on such a stacked roster, it's hard because I don't know, I think you need to focus more on your champions. Yes, we see them here and there on the shows, but not many defenses.
Yeah. And we've gotten spoiled, I think, seeing those regular title defenses. I mean, the tag titles consistently defended in AEW.
Yeah.
I think especially the TNT title, we were so used to seeing that week after week after week, that belt being defended. I think this is a sign of the depth of the roster. I think Tony recognizes, listen, we only have 4 pay-per-views a year, right? And this roster is so incredibly stacked. In order to and how often have you and I talked about it on this show? There are so many weeks, this week included, where Dynamite or Rampage feels like it could be a pay-per-view. There are definitely matches and long stretches of the show that feel like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting this on free TV.
I know.
So I think that the way that Tony is differentiating even the most special Dynamites from a pay-per-view or like we're going to see soon, Battle of the Belts, right?
That's going to be fun.
The belts are going to get defended more rarely, less frequently. And I think that's, again, although we're going to miss some of that, we're going to, as fans of the champions, you and I both love Thunder Rosa as an example.
Yes.
It would be fun to see her fire and her passion more frequently on a week-to-week basis defending that belt. I think that TK and AEW are starting to structure the show, looking at it with a big picture perspective of like, we have a deep enough roster now where we can have matches and feuds and big moments that feel like, that they're going to get the crowd off their feet. They're going to get us buzzing and the internet wrestling community going to go crazy without the title having to be defended all the time. And I think that's a good thing.
You're right.
Because think about it. Like Lance Archer is a guy who you and I have talked about over and over again. We love Lance. We think that he has such high upside. And there has been times in which he's lost some of his luster because he's had title shots and he's lost them. So you can protect some of these guys and keep them feeling like big spectacles, like big deals, without having them lose title matches, and keep them feeling like believable title contenders without losing the shots, right? And I think that we're going to see Adam Cole, I think, transition away from being a world championship contender into some bigger feuds. And again, Adam Cole's a guy, SPD, that he doesn't necessarily need to be a world champion. He can still be a guy who gets the crowd off his feet, get the crowd off their feet, gets those big pops. And anytime, let's be honest, he's established enough that anytime he's in the ring, anytime he's in a match, anytime he's on a show, it's going to feel like a big deal, whether he's a champion or not, right?
You're right. You're absolutely right, man. And I can't wait to him and Red Dragon to pivot to the Young Bucks turmoil, because that feud in and amongst itself is going to be some fantastic stuff. Hopefully that can lead to maybe a Kenny return or maybe and something like that, which would be a lot of fun, and that would be must-see TV. And you could say the same thing about what's going on with Jericho and MJF. Like no gold is needed within that feud. And
agreed. And
but-
it's as big of a feud as you could get. And this is a great transition here too, SPD, because Samoa Joe having this big debut match. Dude, Joe doesn't need to be a champion to get me buzzing, bro. I
No, he
love
doesn't.
Samoa Joe. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of my lifetime.
He's awesome, yes.
Yeah, and this one had people going crazy because although it feels like Platinum Max is kind of slotted into this role of a guy who talks a lot of trash and loses these big matches, it does feel believable that AEW is going to come around and eventually he's going to break out, right? He's going to eventually have that match where he's going to win against a guy like Samoa Joe or get that big push to be a top level guy because the guy has charisma for days. That said,
that's an understatement.
there was no chance he was going to beat Joe in his debut, man. And I want to hear from you. What was your experience watching Joe live in AEW? What was that like for you, man?
I've been wanting to see more and more Joe. As soon as, originally he got let go, I was like, please bring him to AEW. Then he gets re-signed and then it let go again. And then Joe's, debut in AEW. I'm so happy because the guy is just, I love his power. I love his facial expressions and what he can do as such a big man. And, his just the way he carries himself and walks, man.
No nonsense, right?
No nonsense for
him.
sure.
Yeah.
And even though we are huge Max Caster and Acclaim fans, throw him up. Everybody loves the Acclaim. Got to give props to that first thing. Another fantastic mic drop, home run as always. And you could see the look on Joe's face and had us cracking up at home as well. But even though it was essentially a quick, dominant match against someone as much as we like as Max, it makes sense. And I don't think it hurts him that well. Max just went against CM Punk, the best in the world. Now he's going against Samoa Joe. He's sharing the ring. And, I made that bold take, that hot take a couple weeks ago is I want to see the Acclaimed as tag team champs very soon because they're just entertainment level is awesome. You don't need to be, yes, we love wrestling and great, but I think some past tag team champs just in different promotions in general, not necessarily are the best in ring stuff, but if they have a gimmick that works and are likable, they can beat you with simple moves just because they're like that. New Age Outlaws was one of my favorite tag teams of all times. Were they the best in the ring in WWF at the time? Probably not, but they had one of the best gimmicks and most fun, and it got us as fans excited.
No doubt. Anytime
that, that
you're right. Anytime Platinum Max, anytime that the Acclaimed come out, anytime you hear that siren, the crowd gets going, dude. We love the creativity that Max brings. We love the energy that Bowens brings, but neither one was enough for Joe. Joe busted out some old school moves that any old Joe fan knows.
Dance moves too.
His punches, his dance moves were great. He busted out the muscle buster to put Max away. I mean, it was a definitive statement by Joe, and I love that he piggybacked off of his initial press conference when TK introduced him. Joe's career has had a lot of peaks. He's been at the top many, many times. Mm-hmm. But the final chapter of his run in WWE, he was looked at as a commentator, as a mentor, as a guy who was, kind of past his prime and was going to kind of help usher in the new era. And Joe made it very clear, man, I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to be a big brother to somebody. I'm here to finish my career at the very top. And I think that entering the Owen Hart tournament and winning in such a definitive fashion, I mean, let's be honest, man, this was a pretty one-sided affair. Joe beat the snot out of Platinum Max in this one. And I think it was a good statement win for Joe. And I think it's going to propel him to being one of those guys. And again, we've had so many big names break through in AEW in the last year. But I think that Joe is one of those guys that, with his age,
I hope so.
With the draw that he is, with the seriousness that he brings, and this is something that I think is really important. His opponent, Platinum Max, is a great example. Charismatic guy, hilarious. There's a lot of people who are great entertainers in AEW, but this is one of the things I love about Moxley and the new edge that he's showing. Joe brings a seriousness, a violence to his matches that is really a breath of fresh air in AEW. He is a guy who's not really about the showmanship, the flash, the spots. He's not going to do a bunch of flips. This is a dude who is going to punch you in the face and choke you out. And I love that about Joe. The seriousness that Joe brings. He's got to be a favorite to win the Owen Hart tournament, man. He's absolutely got to be a favorite.
Yeah, I don't think even though this is the first match of the tournament, we don't know how big the tournament's going to be. I feel like, just having a debut like this, you got to, but you can kind of see that stuff that was happening with Jay Lethal, that quick heel turn that he had at Ring of Honor. So I'm all in for that, getting more and more Jay Lethal on that.
I'm happy to see Jay Lethal on Team Heel, so baby. I know that guy about it.
Overfills with character and a lot of fun, man. But a quick question before we move on to one of one we're really excited to talk about. Who do you think will get gold in AEW? Even though we know gold does not necessarily mean you're the top of the food chain, the number one draw or whatever. If out of some recent ones, I'm talking Samoa Joe, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk. Of those four, who do you think is going to get gold first? Doesn't any kind of gold?
Well, I think
Samoa Joe, Adam Cole, Danielson, and CM Punk. Who would get gold?
We're not going to include Keith Lee. We're brushing over Keith Lee.
I guess you could throw Keith Lee in there.
All right, because I think that Keith Lee is definitely being positioned to. I mean, with this feud with Starks, I could see him being a guy who could maybe take the FTW title.
Okay.
Maybe
that's gold.
But I think that Punk is going to be the next guy, because I think, oh man, that's tough. Because I could see Danielson. I could see Danielson and Moxley being the tag champs. I mean, I really could see that happening. I see that
going.
But I think that I'll be honest with you. If you gave me the opportunity, I would love to see CM Punk become a world champion in AEW. I think.
Well, this is a good point right here too. I mean, he's already got a Ring of Honor title match, so there's gold right there.
Great point.
Yeah,
that's a great
very
point,
good
Scoot.
point.
I think that's a great call. I think that could be a good one.
AEW belts now.
Yeah, I think that everybody in the chat is kind of like everyone's pumped about Joe versus Suzuki.
There's no way
that's going to be stiff. That's going to be so violent and stiff. SPD, as a guy who loves chops, we should do a drinking game for that match. Where every time that there's a stiff chop, you and I have to take a drink of a beer.
Okay. We'll see if we show up on Wednesday night. We'll see if we make it to Wednesday night. All right, that's the deal. Those two are going to
beat the piss out of each other. So if we're counting the ROH title, then Joe. But outside of that, I'm going to put my money on Punk, dude. I think that Punk going against Hangman, I'm all for seeing – we've seen Punk kind of lay down the gauntlet. Again, I think that we're starting to see a transition for CM Punk where he's starting to move away from something that Bonds, when he was still with us, Bonds talked about this a lot. As a guy, we all love CM Punk, but his tour in AEW until very recently, until this, I think MJF pushed him over the edge. It was this feel-good story of a guy who came back, returned from retirement, was just happy to be here, wave to the fans. It was about fun. It was about good time and enjoyment. And there wasn't really an end goal of wow, Punk really wants to be the champ. That never was discussed. And I think after this feud with MJF, I think there was something that happened where Punk was reminded why he did this and why he would stake claim to being the best in the world. I think there's that edge coming back in CM Punk, and I would love to see a mini heel turn for CM Punk.
Wow, of course you would, team heel.
I got to take some of the talent. If you're taking FTR away from me, I got to get somebody in return. It's got to be a fair trade, and I would be happy to give you the greatest tag team of all time if I can get the best in the world. Let's do a little swap.
Okay.
I think that CM Punk being a heel against Hangman Adam Page, and again, you and I have talked about it. Face versus face, a lot of times it works. And I think that this match would start out with it being a face versus face feud. But I think that Punk has shown the ability to flip between heel and babyface really, really well. And I would love to see him get a chance to be on the top again. He made it very clear in his promos he's not going to rest until that happens. So I'm all for it.
If they pull it, I mean, I
What
think
about you? That's a great question. I mean,
think
you're
this
going
is
to
a
throw that
win-win
at me.
situation. Briefly, I'll say Danielson for the tag title reason. For that will be my guess for the gold. But what I'm going to say is a follow-up for that CM Punk is, are you there? Are you frozen? But I'm going to keep going. My follow-up for the CM Punk situation is that I think he will turn heel against Hangman, but I don't think he's going to win. And I say we save that gold, change hands for someone as big as MJF. Keep pushing the homegrown talent, keep pushing all that, and then still have CM Punk go heel and then kind of branch off into a sub feud and so forth on that. So that's where I stand on that. I think that would be a nice, compelling. We're going to try to get Crayfish back in 1 second, everyone. Don't mind us. It wouldn't be a Dynamite download with some quick technical difficulties. But what do you guys think in the chat as I'm here? Other than I see you guys what you're saying, but I think, man, it's so hard because I would love to see more action of the belts being defended time and time again. So if Jurassic Express does lose to Red Dragon, then you can throw in FTR against a true team heel, and then FTR can reclaim more gold around their waist. They could be the new belt collectors. So I would love to see that. Or you can have the Blackpool Combat Club dethrone Red Dragon as well, which they would put on some absolute banger matches as well. So on that, we are standby for a second. I'm going to keep going. So what was everyone's, we're going to throw up our top performers soon as Crayfish gets rebooted. Yes, Wi-Fi did turn heel on Crayfish on that as well. In the chat, who is your top performer of the week? Including, you're talking Rampage, we're talking Dynamite. Overall, we have our top performers we usually do of Dynamite. And so I'm curious of your guys' top performers of the week. So put them in the chat. Be happy to talk through some of the ones and some of the great ones are here as I'm trying to get Crayfish back online. Wi-Fi. So I would love to see, that's for good, Bobby, the Acclaimed versus the Red Dragon for sure. So that would be a nice transition. I think we're starting to get more and more people, or more and more leaning towards that baby face for the Acclaim, because even though they diss the crowd, they diss their competitors, it's a lot of fun to root for. Like we talked about there, everyone loves the Acclaimed for a reason. They're just, pumping it down our throats nonstop as well. Brian, that's a good point. Yuta, back to best friends. There's no way. I think, ever since Trent returned, he was kind of giving Yuta a hard time, and he was pushing him time and time again. He didn't have him. If you saw BT, if you watch BT, it's a lot of fun. He had a poop emoji, and he was telling Yuta, like, yo, I have this on my tights for you because you're a piece of shit. And I thought that was hilarious. So now I feel like we're going to get a transition of the best friends feuding with the Blackpool Combat Club. So is that there he is, you're back. As Scoot said, the Wi-Fi turned heel on you really quick. But before we switch to the next gear, I wanted to tell you my quick point of CM Punk, as I was telling everyone online, is that I don't think CM Punk dethrones Hangman. I think he turns heel on Hangman after an awesome main event match, but Hangman's still the champ, and then you save the title change for MJF. So keep I want them to keep the homegrown stuff going just for a little while longer, and then you can kind of revisit some of the new signees, as well. But either way, I think it's a win-win.
You think that MJF is going to be the one that dethrones Hangman, huh?
I haven't thought it through, but I would welcome it, because you play this out till the next pay-per-view, which would be where we're going to go all out in September, which would be awesome.
That makes sense.
So
I could see that. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I will say, while I got booted off on Wi-Fi, I was listening on my phone. I love that you immediately your topic to keep things going was to talk about who was going to turn heel, which I want to talk. I would love to talk to you about that topic, but I love that you were getting the fans to talk to you about that one. Love that. And you're talking about heel, no better heel in the industry than MJF. And man, I'll be honest with you. We interacted with a little bit with Sean Spears on Twitter this week. He and Sean Spears are doing some incredible heel work right now. And let's be honest, anybody who interacts with MJF immediately becomes taken to another level as a babyface. Our guy Wardlow doesn't need the help. This guy is as dynamic of a superstar in AEW. This guy feels like he was my back-to-back pick for Breakout Star of the Year. This dude is just absolutely breaking out in a whole new sense of the word. It feels like the crowd can't get enough of our guy Wardlow.
Drink it in, man.
Dude, with him and MJF going, this feud is a great example of what we talked about earlier. Does not need a title, does not need a belt associated with it whatsoever. And it feels like it's the biggest deal on every single show that it's on. It's incredible.
Even though it's like rinse and repeat where he's coming out and stalking MJF and just busting through 20 security guards at a time, I pop every time, man. As soon as I see Wardlow's face get beat red, like literally look like he's about to turn into the Hulk, and a warpath is coming, and bodies are going to be laid out. And so soon enough, as you said online on Twitter, you hope that the restricted signs get bigger and bigger and bigger ringside, where they're cardboard cutouts. Cutouts. I think it'd be so funny because the first week it was just 8x10s, and then you had a bigger poster boards. Now you should get bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And MJF's actually going to be in the ring, so he's going to be a little bit closer to Wardlow's reach if he does bust through. But I could see MJF doing something kind of like a lumberjack circle around the ring of security guards. So I think that is that. But we had to touch on that because Wardlow's our guy, man. He is just doing incredible stuff. He's being booked perfectly. And I think the end result is just going to be, if you could even say this, he's going to be an even bigger superstar after this MJF feud. But he's already just through the roof doing amazing stuff. The crowd loves being part of Wardlow's world.
Yes, dude. Wardlow's world, we're just living in it, dude. I absolutely love how this is being booked. Dude, if there's a better example of long-term slow build of a guy in this industry, you're going to have to tell me, because I mean, we're fresh off the heels of what we're seeing AEW do with Wheeler Yuta, where, this is a guy who you could tell they believe in. They're building his star power. They're getting him over.
Yeah.
But Wardlow, they've been simmering. This is like crock pot cooking, folks, with Wardlow. They've been slow cooking this breakout with Wardlow to the point where I've been just, give me that. Give me it, baby. Give me it. I've been dying for it. I'm salivating for the breakout of Wardlow. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it, and they couldn't book it any better. Getting MJF on commentary, being able to see him go crazy. He's starting to get paranoid. And you could tell Wardlow is getting through to MJF. The fear of when is Wardlow going to break through and get through all these security guards and get his hands on him. We all can't wait until that powerbomb symphony happens to Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I cannot wait to see it happen. The Ward Dog is a perfect example of AEW knowing how to build homegrown talent. And yes, they have brought in some of the absolute best stars on the planet. We as wrestling fans are spoiled with this roster. This is an all-time roster. When you talk about Hangman, CM Punk, Brian Day, John
Jericho.
Moxley, Kenny Omega, Jericho. We could go on and on.
Lucha Brothers.
The talent on this roster is insane. But this is a guy who, I've said it from the beginning of this show, Wardlow feels like a guy who could be a breakout star for AEW, a homegrown talent who could become an everyday name, a guy who's on the marquee, a guy who leads this company into the next chapter. This is a guy who I'm sure we've seen Cody jump ship.
Yeah.
And it was hard as a fan of AEW to see that
Agreed.
happen. This is a guy that Vince McMahon would go crazy at the opportunity to get Wardlow. He would throw big money to bring this guy over. And that's a testimony to what TK and Wardlow and the entire AEW team have been able to do with this guy. He is a guy who I think anybody would be jealous to have, and they would love to have on their roster. Wardlow, I can't get enough, man. And I think that this feud is being booked absolutely perfectly.
Oh my gosh, it is so fun to watch. But man, the main event was I almost stood up and clapped because the only downfall of this is I wish it had 60 minutes. I wish it had more time. I wanted more and more and more of this, man. But I got to congratulations, and welcome to Team Babyface FTR.
I know.
I am so happy to be part of Team Babyface over here on SPD's side. Welcome. But the fans have been slow, like I would say actually aggressively cheering FTR. They haven't been leaning into their typical heel stuff, but last week or on Dynamite, the fans were going berserk for FTR, and the Young Bucks didn't even need to be their true, really heels to get that to happen.
They're good at it, though.
Yeah, they are very, very good at being heels. But FTR was so over with the crowd on this one. Yeah, 2 championships on the line, which I wasn't aware of until into the show. And so that would have been a big change as well. Amazing back and forth stuff, man. The chemistry is through the roof. 18 months in the making for this rematch, man. We were hoping for a rematch sooner, but now they share 1-1.
It's perfect.
You need to have that
rubber match.
The rubber match for sure. But all 4 guys are. This is wrestling. This is tag team wrestling at its finest. 2 totally different people or totally different styles that work so well together. And the chemistry. I loved how both teams were kind of, trading each other's finishers. Uncle Dax put the headband down his pants and threw it at Jax's face. So a lot of stuff going on, but the fans were just eating it up like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Dax the Axe. These guys had one of the best weeks in wrestling that people have had in a long, long time, and not easy matches. And they put on outstanding 5-star matches. It's a lot of fun, man. I hope these guys get another run with the gold, because this is one of those where, like, yes, I don't care. I just want to see FTR in the ring, but with gold around their waist and them being the new belt collectors, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. So please give these guys an opportunity, because I want them to be, I love fighting champions, and I feel like these guys would be the fighting champions of the tag division.
You could tell they love tag team wrestling, and they take pride in putting on the boots every single week and going out there and proving their worth, man. I mean, these guys are awesome at what they do. I've been preaching the gospel of FTR since day one.
Put that jacket on. You should be wearing that jacket to work all week.
I know.
Bro.
I should be strutting into work with the FTR jacket. I love FTR, man, and it's no wonder that they become baby faces. These guys have a story of, constantly grinding. When you see people who are passionate about what they do and are willing to put in the work, it's hard not to root for them.
You're right,
and you could tell these guys love tag team wrestling. They're passionate about it. They're
big time.
And it comes through in their work, because that's the thing, man. When you watch an FTR match, you're watching guys who are careful of the nuances, who know how to tell a story, who know how to work a crowd into a fever pitch. I mean, that hot tag for Dax, everybody was talking about it after that match. The hot tag for Dax was executed to perfection. This was a match where, I love seeing Young Bucks do their thing, be more than happy to do the troll, work the crowd. The Bret Hart references by Matt Jackson were executed really, really well.
It's coming.
But I think so too. I think that Bret Hart is going to get into the AEW. I think it's only a matter of time.
There's a photo of him rocking that Living Legends shirt. So, I mean,
I like it.
that the FTR could be the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be tag team. Where someone had that sign, I think it would be a lot of fun. I mean,
Very
I bet
fitting.
the door's open. I'm sure if Brett wants to be there. So does FTR need that? No. But,
of course not.
No,
but
those two guys are so passionate on the mic. Their promos are so great. I feel like you almost don't. And it's the same thing, not to get off topic, but with Lance Archer, I think that guy is a passionate one. You know, even with Jake the Snake, who has cut some epic promos for him, I don't think it's necessary. I would love to see them kind of hold their own for now. Maybe
fresh
just
off the heels of having Tully as their manager, I get it. You know, I get why, you know, you would think like, man, they don't really need a manager per se, but I mean, having Brett in the fold, a true legend in this business, you're not going to say no to having him involved in AEW. And I think that, you know, it would be a shoe-in. I would love to see the visual, and I know that it would mean a lot, especially to Dax. You know that's like his hero, his idol.
Yeah, they're always rocking Bret Hart stuff.
It would be cool to see it, man. I don't know if they necessarily need it, but we don't necessarily need, you know, Samoa Joe and CM Punk and all these people in AEW. We don't need it, but man, I will take it. I will, you know, if you're gonna keep offering me up greatness, I will be more than happy to take that in. I'm not gonna say no. I think that the vibe would work really, really well together. You know, and honestly, although Brett he's come to peace with his terms with Vince and WWE. I think it'd be cool to see kind of Brett joining AEW and helping them fight the company that really wronged Brett in a lot of ways. And a company and join a company that is doing everything they can to honor his family.
The Hart name.
Yeah, the Hart legacy, right? I mean, how great would it be? Owen Hart, you see them making this tournament around his fallen brother.
You're right.
I think Brett's a guy of principle. Brett is a guy that has always kind of marched to the beat of his own drum and like has a very set of ideology. Like he seems like a guy who values loyalty and more than money. And I think that he sees what AEW is trying to do. And I think that he certainly sees what FTR is trying to do. And that's make wrestling matter again, right? Like the FTR has always gone against the grain. And I know that at times you and I have had these conversations. I know you're a huge Lucha Brothers fan, and I love Lucha Bros, but FTR is so opposite of what some modern wrestling is about. You know, modern wrestling is a lot about, like, you know, these crazy moves, these big pops that come from unbelievable sites of athleticism, things that we could never dream to do, right? But FTR has always kind of gone against the grain. They've always tried to go back to we don't need to do a 360 senton off the top in order to make this match matter, right? We can make you invested in a match with a hip toss and a headlock, right? And that's one of the things I love about FTR, that they are old school. And I think that Brett sees what they're trying to do here, and it would be a peanut butter and jelly. It would just be a perfect combination.
Spaghetti and meatball.
Yeah, baby, lamb and tuna fish. I love it.
Could you imagine
I would be all for it.
This hit.
Yeah, baby.
Imagine if that guitar line hit in AEW, how berserk the crowd would go.
You're right.
It'd be absolutely insane.
You're right.
And it would be fun. I mean, you would have Bret Hart, you know, going on mic battles. You can have him going on mic battles with
Paul says
Dan Lambert. You can have him going against, you know, even their old manager Tully. You know, if he has a tag team, you can have him going against other managers toe for toe, and I think that would be a lot of fun. You could even have Kenny Omega reemerge and Callis, you know, going toe to toe with him on the mic as well. But that being said,
Top
even
performer.
with the week of wrestling, my top performer, if we had to do the week top performer, still wouldn't change with FTR. I think I was just so impressed by them and just how well they won over the crowd. Yes, Yuta is a close second on that one as well, and even just a debut in Samoa Joe. But man, I'm all in on FTR. I'm a Young Bucks guy, a Lucha Brothers guy. FTR was ranked number 3 for my top tag teams. Now, in the current state of AEW, they're my number 1.
Buddy, I am like so, dude, because we've been doing this for like 80 weeks.
I
now,
know.
and there have been guys who I have been pounding the desk, and I've been wearing on you. I've been wearing on you, and finally you've now that they've flipped over to babyface. Now you have no choice but to love them. But FTR is one of those teams that I think that anybody who's been watching the show from day one knows Crayfish has been on board at the front of the line.
You're right.
Championing these guys, and it's so great to see them getting recognized for what they're doing for pro wrestling. I love.
Please give us more of them. Please give us more.
Without a doubt, I agree with you. Even with the star-making match that we get, now we're going to transition into Rampage, and this was a huge night for Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
Even with that match, FTR still is my top. They're my top performers of the week. I love them. I love what they're doing. I think they are really changing the game right now, and they're setting the bar for what it means to be a pro wrestler. And we're going to get into what pro wrestling versus sports entertainment a little later to this show.
Well,
too.
No, let's give credit where credit is due right now. Our guy QT Marshall was named Chris Jericho's Sports Entertainer of the Week. QT Marshall, props to that, man. You are an excellent sports entertainer. You deserve his first award that he's given away for this, which I think
great cologne and great bowling shirts, as Jericho pointed out. A man who knows how to wear some good cologne. I'll tell you this much. QT is always incredibly entertaining on social media. If you follow him on Twitter, he is constantly roasting the fans, which is phenomenal.
His feed is awesome.
His stuff on AEW, this is a guy who we're going to look fondly on him. And we always have loved him here at Dynamite Download. But I think more and more fans, once QT's gone, they're going to realize this guy played a huge role in getting a lot of other people over. And it takes a certain type of guy, a certain type of attitude, a certain type of personality to be able to take things in stride, to take as many L's as QT has taken, and continue to be as entertaining as he is. The guy just never loses steam. He continues to keep chugging along, and everything he does is hilarious. He is really crushing it, and it's so awesome that he was named. He's the first Sports Entertainer of the Week by the influencer Chris Jericho.
The GOAT. Well deserved for QT Marshall, man. Like you said, man, he just hits every single note that he makes. You know, his promos are absolutely gold. Time and time again, he makes feuds seem even more, pumped up for those, man. I love what he's been doing. We just want to see more and more of him. And I like that, Rampage is starting to become, a kind of a spotlight show for him. He's getting the AEW television. The Factory is still being featured a lot on Dark and Elevation. But we gotta get his ace in the hole. We gotta get his Joker back. We gotta get Anthony Ogogo, the governor. We need some kind of Factory feud where QT can lead the charge on the stick, and Anthony Ogogo can be throwing the haymakers, and Camarado can be just throwing bodies from corner to corner.
I like it,
man.
I'm all for it, man.
I know we really want to see that.
I'm
with
all
the
about
Factory.
it. But it was nice to see your favorite of one of the greatest of all time, Chris Jericho, acknowledge what QT Marshall has done. And again, everything that Jericho has been doing, everything the Jericho Appreciation Society is doing right now is absolutely gold. And this new segment is another notch in the belt for Jericho. Sports Entertainer of the Week. I can't wait. I want to see it. I can't wait to see more of that. And I think it debuted in perfect fashion, acknowledging QT Marshall, our guy here at Dynamite Download. I'm so geeked out for QT. happy that he was finally like he needs that credit. He needs to be recognized for what he does for sports
Give the man
entertainment.
what he deserves for sure.
Well, let's
there's
dive
so
into
much
Dynamite,
wrestling,
Rampage here, bro.
this week, so much great wrestling this week. I know our show's running good. We're feeling the flow, but we're gonna just dive right into the Yuta match to end things on Dynamite Download tonight. John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, and it's interesting how this played out because the full circleness, I love it, man. This kid, 25 years old, recently signed All Elite. I wasn't, I know he's been the protege. They kept pushing him the protege of, the best friends and Orange Cassidy and all that. And just kind of this background character. Some may have said, a jobber in a sense of certain elements, but he's putting the work in. And honestly, I'll be the first to admit, and I think you'll be right along with me, like, I don't know where I stood with him. I was like wondering what Tony Khan saw in him that we're kind of missing. And now we see it. He's getting these spotlight matches, out of the best friends. He's getting these spotlight matches here against there and there. I mean, yes, he went against Moxley early on and got his clocks clean very quickly. He had a really good match against Danielson. And then tonight or on Rampage, he had literally blood, sweat, and tears and about 20 feet in the air through a table. This kid proved himself.
He literally was willing to give everything he had, and that was
the crowd.
Was endearing.
For a long marathon of a night. You go to Dynamite and Rampage.
See Rampage.
It's not easy.
Right?
Dark Dynamite Rampage. It's not easy to keep that high energy as Boston
especially
did.
with how hot Boston was to start off. You know what I mean? You're right. That's a good point by you.
The crowd right away was eating up Yuta.
He gave them reason to. I mean, right away, diving out of the ring at Moxley. I mean, the kid, give him his. I mean, let's be real.
Agree.
He gave it everything he had, and I think that again, a great story being told with Wheeler is that the beatings and the fights that he's had with Moxley and Danielson led to this. A guy who broke through has now established himself as a guy who has earned the respect by some of the guys who we look at as the flag bearer, like the flag bearers of AEW, the benchmarks of pro wrestling. Again, I think that you nailed it in your intro to this one. Wheeler, and especially in such a deep roster, it's easy to kind of say, like, well, where does this guy fit and why do they see so much in him? And
you're right.
Where's his upside? And in a match like this, where he went toe to toe with, and like my opinion of Moxley to this point, what Moxley's doing, this is the best version of John Moxley I've ever seen. And for Wheeler to go toe to toe with this version of Mox and be willing to spill the blood that he spilled and push Moxley to this level. And to be honest with you, have moments where he had Moxley on the ropes.
How many people have had Moxley on the ropes as of late? And how many people have kicked out of the paradigm shift, not once, but twice? And someone as Yuta, I mean, I'll circle back to what we talked about earlier. That was a lot of blood. And at times I had to look away. And, Danielson tweeted it out as well, they're about a time and place and, to tell a story. And I think it was a lot and it could have been a little less in my opinion, but
I love that he wrote it. I love that he on his chest with his own blood. I thought that was a pretty cool touch at the end. I
agree, but the blood told a lot of the story of his toughness and his resilience and his willingness not to quit. And then just smearing the blood on Moxley and also doing the nail drag on his back as well, putting his blood on there as well, and then shaking William Regal's hand with a handful of blood. And so there is just a lot of emotion added with that.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been elevated to that star-making moment if it wasn't that way. And I think that this was a very, very impressive match. That one that I honestly did not expect to be this good. And I'm very pleasantly surprised and happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of buzz about this match before the show aired. And when you have a match, when people are setting the bar that high, and then to start Rampage off, I'll be honest with you, with the way Danielson and Trent, those two went after each other in the beginning of the show,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Wheeler and Mox better bring it, because that match, I felt, set the bar pretty damn high. Those two were going at each other, and you and I both are big Trent fans. We feel like he's the stud
Agree.
of the best friends. He's the workhorse of the best friends.
You're right.
Those two guys went at each other, but and even the biggest skeptic had to walk away from this Wheeler Yuta versus John Moxley match saying, like, this kid, he showed heart to on a level that where he gained a lot of fans on Friday night, dude. He
had a lot of fans already, and now he's got 2 more big fans here at Dynamite Download. And you're absolutely right, man. I mean, the heart and soul. And so I know there's still, you can hear Moxley saying the work starts now. The work starts now. Does this officially mean that he is part of the Bloodsport Combat Club, or what? What do you think?
mean, when you write that on your chest in blood,
I think so.
I think he's the first like the new addition. I don't think they're done.
No,
I don't think like he said, like Moxley said, the work starts here. I think that they're going to continue to work through this roster and see who belongs.
Yeah.
But I think that Wheeler Yuta has earned to a spot alongside Danielson and Mox, just based off of what he's been willing to go through. I mean, this kid has gotten the shit kicked out of him between those matchups. I mean, just beaten to a bloody pulp by these guys, and he's kept coming back for more. And I think that goes back to the very beginning of the Danielson and Moxley that group coming together, is that these are guys that are willing to go to war,
right,
and kind of find a sense of peace, a sense of enjoyment in pain. You know, that like, how deep am I willing to dig? And Wheeler Yuta is a guy who you could look at and you could say, this is a kid who's willing to dig deep in order to win a match, in order to win a fight, in order to win respect. You know, this is a week where I'm so glad we were able to postpone until after both Dynamite and Rampage, because what a week for AEW, SPD. Ending on such a high note with this one, but there were multiple moments throughout the week that could have been your moment of the night. Joe's debut, FTR versus the Bucks, and Wheeler Yuta versus John Moxley certainly stands amongst those at the very top.
What do you think, real quick, as we're wrapping things up for this week? But like, yeah, I agree with you, man. It's nice to let this digest, because there's so many high points that we needed to touch on in such an epic week. And we're going into another epic week with a live Rampage, the Battle of the Belts, another epic Dynamite with most of the matches announced so far. Do you, right off the top of your head, do you see anyone kind of on the horizon that you would want to see in the Bloodsport Combat Club, or anyone else? Or because it's right now, I don't see anyone direct. I could see them starting a feud, kind of a trios feud, or, you know, just showing their presence, kind of, you know, having matches, but I don't see anyone that really is really on deck per se, or that I can picture right now off the top of my head joining them.
I agree. I mean, at the very beginning, I thought, you know, Daniel Garcia was a shoo-in, but man, that guy is in Jericho Appreciation Society, and he's killing it right now. That group is absolutely amazing. It's so money.
Right.
But no, I mean, I think, like, you know, there are guys out there that certainly could use some direction, like, you know, a Lee Johnson. There's talent out there that could use a little bit of that, like, sharpening or that refocus.
Sure.
But I think that they're going to allow the Wheeler edition to simmer for a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to start to see this story play out. And then eventually you're going to see that come into focus, get a little clearer. There's going to be somebody who they're going to have their sights set on. I love that, Sharonica. Like, let's let Wardlow. I'll be honest with you, though. I think Wardlow is going to be a guy who stands on his own.
Yeah, he's all good on his own.
But I think that, you know, there's a lot of young talent in the AEW, and I'll be honest with you, they got me to flip a switch on Wheeler. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I had questions on what they saw in him, and boom, I see it now. And so I think that they might somebody might be sneaky. I mean, it could be somebody like Brian Pillman Jr., right? A guy who, the happy-go-lucky in the Varsity Blondes. You don't know, with what we're seeing.
What about Lance Archer?
That'd be cool. I like that.
He's a violent guy.
I would like that.
He is a violent person.
Violent dude who seems to really thrive on dishing out pain and taking it himself. I would love that, and it would add a different. That's actually a great pick by you because it would add a whole different style to the group, right? He would add that big man presence to that group that they don't have.
Right.
I like that pick a lot.
The match Moxley and him put on and could put on again, and Danielson, but
I like that. And another Dynamite download favorite right there. I like that, SPD. Throw that out to Lance Archer. We want to see him interacting with these guys because I think that could be a nice future story for him, and it could be a great fit for him.
Fight his way in the Bloodsport Combat Club because, man, that guy is tougher than anyone in the biz, and he would put on some excellent matches with all three guys currently and then earn their respect, and those four could go on an absolute tear through the wrestling world.
Love it. Love it. Veteran presence,
yes.
A badass who would fit that badass vibe. On that note, SPD, let's wrap this baby up.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us on this Sunday night. We appreciate it. This was a lot of fun chatting about the whole week. But thank you, guys. Enjoy the week of Dynamite. We'll be back on hopefully on our regularly scheduled program afterwards. A nice, explosive one, and we could talk some smack, even though we don't talk smack here about MJF and his match, but we're going to talk some Wardlow love. But thank you, guys. Hope you had a great weekend, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Baby. Peace.